Hello and good morning, everybody. I hope you can see me and you can hear my voice. It's a great pleasure for me to be speaking to you all today. My name is Shehzaad Shams. I live in London and I had been a regular visitor of the London Language Show, and I was really worried thinking what would happen this year given the situation with the pandemic. But I think the organizers have done a tremendous job, and I really wanted to thank, first of all, Jonathan Scott and his team for at least having this show online and making sure that all of you are here and we can at least have this conversation virtually. So today, in these 45 minutes, I wanted to talk about the true spirit of Amar Ekushey and the International Mother Language Day and the Bangla language, how all of these are connected and what exactly we are going to take away from these three things today. So that's the topic that I have for you. Like always, it's as you can imagine, it's a new setup with Zoom, but I think all of us have become pretty much accustomed to using Zoom this year. So if you have any questions, please feel free to either raise your hand, or we can try to address those questions towards the end of this session as well. So before we proceed with this presentation, I wanted to also give you an indication of what exactly we are going to talk about here. So let me have a look. So first of all, giving you an idea of the outline, that what exactly we are going to talk about. Why me? So that is the first thing that we'll address in this session. Then I have got a very small questions for you in the form of a quiz. So we will see how much you already know about the topics that we wanted to talk about in this webinar. Then the key takeaways from this session. So I just wanted to highlight that upfront to you, that what exactly we are going to take away from this webinar. Then before we get into the nitty-gritty of what we have to talk about, I wanted to share with you a very sweet story that I have from my undergraduate days in the University of Delhi in India. And then we will look at the key topics. So what exactly this Ekushey February or Amar Ekushey is. We'll have a very brief introduction of the International Mother Language Day, which I'm sure many of you might already be aware of. And then finally, we'll look at a few key fun facts, basically, about the Bangla language. And then we'll try to connect the dots, basically, that how does it all make sense? So you have the Ekushey February, you have the International Mother Language Day, and then you have the Bangla language in between all of these. So how do we then connect the dots and basically conclude this session? So this is the outline, and let's look at, first of all, why exactly I am talking to you today in this session. Why me? So you might be thinking that I'm a very renowned historian, or I have some sort of a degree or a PhD or some sort in linguistics, or if nothing else, I must be at least a language teacher of some sort, that I must be taking regular classes online, offline, that maybe I'm a teacher on Bangla. That's why this webinar session today is on the Bangla language as well. However, to disappoint you, I am none of these. So neither am I a historian, nor I'm a doctorate or a researcher of linguistics, and I'm also not a teacher as well. The only identity that I have, which I can proudly share with you today, is that I'm also, like many of you, a lover of languages. I just love to, of course, learn many languages. And Bangla, I have a very soft corner for the Bangla language, most naturally because it's my first language and it's one of the 7 languages that I speak. So I think this is good enough for me to have convinced Jonathan and his team that, look, I really think the Bangla language requires some more TLC, some more attention. Can I have this opportunity to share my thoughts with the other language lovers? So that's the key reason that I'm talking to you here today. So before we get into the details, let's have a short quiz here. So I have these 3 questions for you. If you already know the answers to these questions, feel free to please write them in the chat window. And if you don't know the answers to these questions, that's why we are talking here. So the first question is, do you already know what is Ekushey February? That's the first question. Do you already know? The second question, as you can see, is, do you know exactly which day is celebrated as the International Mother Language Day? And the third question that we have here is, Bangla as a language is ranked at which number as the most spoken world language? So as you can see on your screen, very brief 3 quizzes for you. What is exactly Ekushey February? Do you know? Yes, no. Do you know which day is celebrated as the International Mother Language Day? Do you know it? Which day of the calendar? And finally, what's the ranking Bangla language has in terms of the most number of native speakers in the whole world? What is that number? Is it 10, 20, 100? What exactly that is? So these are the 3 questions. Without much ado, let's have a look at what the answers are, just to warm up our understandings. So 21st February is also known by the Bangla speakers as Ekushey February, Amar Ekushey, it's the same thing, or it's also known as the Shohid Dibosh. So all of these 3 things are very much familiar with the native speakers of Bangla. And 21st February is actually known by these Bangla speakers as Ekushey February or Amar Ekushey or Shohid Dibosh interchangeably. Interestingly, the same day has also been declared by the UNESCO, which we'll talk about after a few slides, as the International Mother Language Day. So it is the same date, 21st February. So you see, we're already making some connections here. And finally, many of you might already be very much amazed or surprised by this fact, or many of you might not be, that Bangla actually ranks as the 7th most spoken language of the whole world. It's not 1770 or more than like 50th ranking. It's the 7th. So it's within the 10 most spoken languages in the whole world. So it's pretty serious, I think, right? Okay, fantastic. So I think this quiz was just to warm you up a bit. And now let's have a quick look at the takeaways that we have from this session. What exactly we are going to take away from this. So firstly, we will learn a bit more about what exactly happened on this day, this glorious day of 21st February back in 1952. And why that happened. We will shed some light on that. Then many of you might already be knowing it, but for many of us who already don't know, we'll talk briefly about this International Mother Language Day. We are already on 14th November today, so 21st February is just around the corner. What exactly is that International Mother Language Day? What happens? What's the whole purpose? And finally, why should we learn Bangla? So that's the whole call to action that I have for you. So we will try to have a look at these 3 things from this webinar today. Okay. Now, before we get into these 3 topics, let's have a walk down the memory lane. So this is a story around a dining table. You can see, although the pictures are a bit small, but I have this picture on the bottom of the International Students' House in the University of Delhi, India, where I did my undergraduates from way back in 1999, year 2000, so nearly 20 years ago. And you have a photo of the international students around a dining table having their meals. You know, we had this hall and where our meals were served. So the story goes like this, that you won't realize it at the very beginning, but this international students dorm was a mix of nearly more than 100 international students who were studying in India, including myself. And you had folks from as far as from the US and Russia and many countries in Africa, Kenya and Algeria. You have students from Iraq, Iran, and Jordan, Nigeria, and of course you had some Indian students as well who were coming from the other Indian states. And I was there because I was born in Bangladesh and as a Bangladeshi student studying in India. So over the course of my staying in that dorm, we realized that people who used to speak in the same language, they tend to sit together. There was no hard and fast rule, and yes, there were of course people mixing, with sitting with other people as well, or somebody showed up a bit late, so they had to sit with some other group. But in generally, people who were speaking in the same language, and I must say that it was very specific for the speakers of the Bangla language. So there's foreign students who were there from Bangladesh, and there were students who hailed from the Bangla-speaking regions of India, for example, Bengal or Tripura and all. They tend to sit together, or even people from Nepal or Assam in India who not necessarily speak Bangla, but there are a lot of similarities between the linguistic patterns of these languages. They tend to share the dining space together. But on the other hand, you would see the speakers of the Arabic language, such as people from Jordan, people from Saudi Arabia, even people as far as from Egypt and all, they tend to sit together in the same space and enjoying their meal. So while I was preparing for this webinar, this got me thinking that, does it make much sense? Does it make your food taste much sweeter, much more delicious, or when you are actually speaking in your first language with another native speaker while you're enjoying the meal? Does your meal taste sweeter for you? There is no scientific evidence for that, and I'm not claiming that there is one, but I just thought that it actually subconsciously pulls people together, that when you're actually having a meal, you really don't want to engage your brain in thinking words or an expression in another language. You just want to focus on the food on your plate and at the same time share your daily banters. So that's the whole story. I'm not sure if you had any similar experience in your own life. If you do, please feel free to share that in the chat window. So there you go, a bit of a walk down the memory lane. And now let's get into the key slides that I have for you to share. First of all, we'll have a look at what exactly this Ekushey February is. So let me share some images here with you. And I have a very short video to share with you as well, which will shed some more light on this topic. And I'm sure you will really enjoy this short clip. So let me bring that up for you now.
21st February is celebrated as the International Mother Language Day. Do you know the fascinating history behind the events that took place on this day? 1947, two new countries were introduced in the world map, India and Pakistan, as the British Empire divided the subcontinent based on religion before ending the colonial rule. When Pakistan was created, it had two geographically separate parts, East Pakistan, currently known as Bangladesh, and West Pakistan, currently known as Pakistan. The two parts were very different to each other in sense of culture, language, etc. The two parts were also separated by India in between. In 1948, the then government of Pakistan declared Urdu to be the sole national language of Pakistan, even though Bengali or Bangla was spoken by the majority of people combining East Pakistan and West Pakistan. The East Pakistani people protested since the majority of the population was from East Pakistan and their mother language was Bangla. They demanded Bangla to be at least one of the national languages, in addition to Urdu. To demolish the protest, the government of Pakistan outlawed public meeting and rallies. The students of the University of Dhaka, with the support of the general public, arranged massive rallies and meetings. On 21st February 1952, police opened fire on rallies. Salam, Borkot, Rafiq, Jabbar and Shofiur died, with hundreds of others injured. This is a rare incident in history where people sacrifice their lives for their mother tongue. Since then, Bangladeshis celebrate Amar Ekushey as one of the days of national significance. They visit the Shohid Minar, a monument built in
Excellent. So I hope you enjoyed this short little video, and just again, quickly recapping what exactly the video showed was that once these two countries were introduced in the world after the British left the Indian subcontinent in 1947, the two countries were created, India and Pakistan. Pakistan had these two parts, and where the majority of the whole population combined spoke in Bengali or in Bangla. However, it was declared by their government, as you can see on the right-hand side here, that Urdu and only Urdu will be the national language of the combined country of Pakistan. That's where the problem actually started. And on this very day, there were this big rallies and processions coming out of the University of Dhaka, and where the police opened fire, and these people had laid down their lives for claiming the right to speak in their own language, for the demand to have their own mother tongue represented as one of the national languages of their country. So that's how it all started. And as you can see in that map in the bottom left, the two countries of Pakistan were separated by the vast land of India in between. So quite a lot of things you can think about it from here that, having a religious similarity is not enough to have countries bound together. A language, I think, plays a much, much stronger role because it's directly linked with your culture as well. It's true that religion, I think, it does influence your language as well. However, in the end of the day, what happens when linguistics identities are pulled together, Bangladesh, and what happened on this very day, 21st February 1952, is an evidence of what exactly the power of language can be, the power of mother tongue to protect the mother tongue can be. And from 1952 until now, on this very day, Bangladeshis all around the world, they pay their respect to the Shahid Minar. This is built in the memory of those who laid down their lives for protecting the right to speak in their mother language in a national level. Interestingly, those who are living in the UK or in London, I'm not sure if you are aware, there is a replica of this Shahid Minar in East London, just outside the Aldgate East Station in the Altaf Ali Park as well. So that's what exactly happened on 21st February 1952. That's the history. And now, interestingly, how is this linked to the International Mother Language Day? Let's have a look at the next slide here. So this gentleman on the right, Mr. Rafiqul Islam, was a Bangladeshi Canadian citizen who used to live in Vancouver, Canada. He was the one who actually sent a letter to Mr. Kofi Annan, the previous Director General of the UN in 1998, that there must be a day declared globally where all the languages of the whole world, national and indigenous and all kinds of languages which are facing extinction, there should be a day to celebrate that. And he was the one who proposed that this very day, 21st February, should be declared as such. This gentleman is the founder of an association which is even very active currently, which is called the Mother Language Lovers of the World Society. They're based in Vancouver, Canada, and they're also trying to do a lot of awareness raising campaigns in this regard. So he was the one, this Mr. Rafiqul Islam, who sent this letter to Mr. Kofi Annan, and all of that was forwarded to the Bangladesh Parliament. And after the directive from the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, on the 17th of November, 1999, the 30th General Assembly of UNESCO unanimously resolved that this very day, 21st February, will be proclaimed as the International Mother Language Day. So that is the history. I'm giving you this bit of information. So from 1952 up to 1999, then 2000. So this is how all of these things are linked up. What happened in between 1952 and this year 2000? A new country was born into the world map in 1971, a country bearing the name of the language itself, Bangladesh, in 1971. So the seeds of independence of this country was sown right on that very day, 21st February in 1952, which led to the independence of this country away from Pakistan in 1971. So imagine the power of language, where it can lead to. Some more light on this International Mother Language Day, some quotes from the previous Director Generals of UNESCO, and it's on your screen. You can easily see that. So this whole idea to celebrate the International Mother Language Day was the initiative of Mr. Rafiqul Islam and of course the government of Bangladesh. And it has been now celebrated all throughout the world since year 2000. And it's just 3 months away from there, from where we are today. Also, for the main theme for this year, there are different themes yearly. The main theme for year 2020 was languages without borders. You can definitely find more information on International Mother Language Day and what their themes are for next year on their website as well. Now, we have spoken about the Ekushey February 1952. We have spoken about how it's linked to the International Mother Language Day. How did it all come about? And now let's have a look at this, the catalyst language actually, which has been driving all of this forward, the Bangla language. Now, as I said, this is the seventh most spoken language of the whole world. Have a look at this chart on the left-hand side of your screen. Look at the size of the bubbles that right after Chinese and English and Spanish, Arabic and Hindi and Russian, you have Bengali there. Now, this chart in the middle from Busu, the number of native speakers is a bit different, but again, these statistics vary here and there a bit. But again, you see the ranking of the language that it's right after English, Mandarin, Hindi, Spanish, French, Arabic, you see Bengali. So it's just fascinating that it's one of the 10 languages, most spoken languages of the whole world. So I must say that you cannot afford not to learn this language. So make it a resolution for yourself for next year. And those of us who are still unfortunately going through this lockdown situation, lockdowns are a perfect opportunity for you to learn a new language. And I request you to give Bangla a try for that. Now, on the right-hand side, you see the regions in the world where Bangla is spoken very heavily. It's definitely in Bangladesh and a good part of states in India. Bangla is the second most spoken language in India, right after Hindi. And on the bottom left, you see the maps and flags of India and Bangladesh, because it's the language is spoken in both the countries, and also the national anthem of both these countries were composed by the same poet, Rabindranath Tagore. So it's also fascinating trivia that such an influential country like India, and then their national anthem had been originally written in Bangla by the same poet, Rabindranath Tagore, who later also penned the national anthem, the song which was adopted as the national anthem for Bangladesh was also written by Rabindranath Tagore. So it's interesting. The more you will learn about the Bangla language and its culture, you will really realize that from 1952 until then 1971 and then year 2000 and until now, this language has actually witnessed a lot of heroics, a lot of history and heritage, and the birth of a whole nation, you can imagine, in 1971. So this term, I think we are proposing that in the context of the International Mother Language Day, that Bangla is actually the language which tried to bring all national and global languages all together. I mean, this is nothing official, by the way, that it is not the official acronym for the Bangla language. That no, it does not mean this, but this is something we thought, and the way Bangla had been positioned itself as a catalyst to bring together all the other languages, I think we can easily claim that, yes, Bangla is bringing or wants to bring all the national and global languages all together. That is what Bangla for you. Now, let's try to, before we proceed to the connecting the dots, let's look at a few key differences that we have to bear in mind, that this Amar Ekushey or Ekushey February is specifically significant for the Bangladeshis, that this day, the 21st February, to commemorate the events of what happened on that very day. However, International Mother Language Day actually promotes the preservation and protection of all languages of the whole world. So it's not specific to a language, it's for the protection of all the world languages. So although both the events coincide with the same day because they're historically linked, but this day is, I think, a step closer to the hearts of the Bangla speakers. And then the usual celebrations around the International Mother Language Day expands. So the love for Bangla actually then expands to the love for all other languages. So these are the key differences that we have to keep in mind. And finally, let's connect the dots. Then how do we all make sense out of what we just talked about now? So firstly, I shared with you what exactly this Ekushey February is, what happened on this very day in 1952. So we just have to know what exactly happened. And then we know what it led to. So it led to the independence of a brand new country in the whole world in 1971. Then from 1971 up to the 1999, 2000, this declaration of the International Mother Language Day that was adopted by the UNESCO, that led to this. And in the midst of all of this, we became aware of the role of Bangla as a language and Bangladesh as a country in promoting the linguistic preservation and heritage of all languages of the world. And finally, in the light of all of these interesting, amazing, and exciting events in the history, I'm just requesting you to know more and learn the Bangla language as your New Year resolution. Now, what's the true spirit, looking at the title of our webinar today, what's the true spirit of Amar Ekushey? Actually, that can be highlighted in these 7 titles that I have shared with you on the screen. So on the left, you have the plan. So even at an individual level or at a country level, there has to be some sort of a plan to learn, to preserve, to promote a language. You know, plans can change, but planning is essential, as they say. So you have to have a plan, and preferably a long-term, a strategic one with regards to a language. Then the purpose, again, at an individual level, if you're planning to learn a language, or at a national level, if you're planning to preserve a language, the purpose has to be very clear in the minds of those who speak that language, that what exactly we're trying to do with this language and why. Emotions are fine, but at the same time, purpose is essential as well, and that needs to be well articulated. Preservation of a language is essential. That's also one of the key messages of the International Mother Language Day. So indigenous languages or many other languages which don't have any written form, they are nearly getting extinct. So what's the plan? What's the purpose? To preserve those languages. Then practicing is essential. These are not mutually exclusive. I know a few people who really prefer to speak in a certain language at the cost of not speaking in another language which they think is not very cool. It's I think, very suicidal, and unless welcoming new words, understandably, but at the same time, you have a clear plan to protect that. Then comes promotion. So what I am doing now here today with this to all part of the promotion and that those okay. I think we just got cut there briefly, but I'm back and I hope you're still able to hear me. Fantastic. Yes, excellent, wonderful. So we're nearly there. Basically, this was the last slide anyways, and I was at the topic of promoting. And finally, even if you're a speaker of the Bangla language or any other language or whatever you're learning, doesn't matter, you just have to be proud about what you're doing, about your own language. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And yes, we all speak English, and it doesn't necessarily mean that English will be erasing any other languages. It's not a competition, it's a coexistence of all language and celebrating the diversity. So with this note, I've just tried to connect the dots here that we have a plan, we have a purpose to preserve, we practice it to protect, and then we promote, and at the same time be very proud of what we are trying to do. With all of that, I am just well, I just saw the chat window now quickly, and Tina Lundberg is saying fatafati. I think that's what I should have also mentioned in this one of my slides. Thank you for that, Tina. I think that is cool in Bangla in a very uh, proper Bangla way. So yes, it is fatafati to have you all here and listening to me. And I thank you once again for your time. I hope you enjoy the rest of the webinars you have today and tomorrow. Massive thanks to Jonathan and his team. And I leave you with any questions and answers that you might have for me today. But before I finish, again, a massive request to you so that you start learning Bangla as one of your languages for 2021 and make the most of this lockdown before we do get a vaccine and the pandemic is over. You should be the one who should be able to come and tell me that was a Fatafati webinar. Thank you, everybody. Thank you once again. If you have any questions, please let me know. And yes, I will share my contact details just here. I think I'll just type it in the chat window here. Okay, I've just pasted my personal email address here. Okay, yes, I think there's a quick question which we can definitely address from, there was a question from Nathan. Yes, I think this is a pretty important question. We living in the UK as well. So this, given this history, he's asking, what's your opinion on Sylheti and the erasure of the language of the Sylhet region by Bangladesh? So, well, it's two parts, your question. What's your opinion on Sylheti? So I am half as well. My maternal side, they are from the region of Sylhet, and I do understand Sylheti. I don't know how to speak in fluent Sylheti, except for these swear words, of course. But yes, it's more than a dialect, honestly. When you hear Sylheti, it doesn't sound like Bangla at all. It's definitely a different, sound like a different language. So I definitely love that, and I must say that there's a lot of Sylheti specific, even YouTube channels and a lot of media in the UK at least. When you say the erasure of the language of the Sylhet region by Bangladesh, I'm not very sure what you mean, but I think I can assure you one thing, that if you speak to any Sylheti, like hardcore Sylheti, they love their language. And I have even heard Sylheti speakers telling me that I am a Bengali and they are Sylhetis. We have these little tensions between the Sylheti speakers and the speakers of the proper Bangla language. And I must tell you, the Bangla that people speak in Bangladesh is hugely different from what they speak in Bengal, in India as well. A few words, the accents, it's like any other language, like English or French. So Bangla has got these variations as well. And any other questions? Okay, fantastic. Excellent. So I think, yes, I think I've just pasted my email here. Once again, I'm pasting my email here for you. And I'd really love to, if you have more questions or comments or anything in relation to today's webinar, please feel free to email me. It's shehzaadshams@gmail.com. And basically, just my first name, last name, as you can see on your screen, @gmail.com. Okay. Excellent, guys. I thank you once again. All of you enjoy the rest of the day, enjoy the webinar, and I do expect to hear some more information questions from you. Well, I have somebody, Syed Alam, raised a hand. Okay, let me find out. Okay. Yes. Syed, do you mind just pasting your, writing your comments on the chat? I think that might be more convenient. Okay. Oh, yes, yes, George Melnik, it's the same thing. Bangla and Bengali are the same thing. Bangla is the language that the name of the language is Bangla. I think when the British were there, or in English, they prefer to call the language as Bengali. It's a bit like India is the way we know the country as, but in Hindi, the country is all known as Bharat. So it's pretty much the same thing, but I think we are pushing more for Bangla over Bengali. Excellent, guys. So with that, I leave you with that. Have a great weekend, and thank you very much once again for attending this webinar. I look forward to receiving your emails, and we'll speak more. Thanks a lot. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.